Get into the 4 incidents that we're talking about with Louie CK. So the 4 incidents, and then I'm going to talk about Katy Perry, and then I'm going to do the commentary, okay? So that way we get all the information first. So there's 4 incidents and 5 women. There's one in 2002, one in 2003, one in 2005, and then there's one in 1998. So let's start with the easiest one. So Abby Schnatner, she's a comedian, or was a comedian. She was doing one of her shows. Abby Schnatner in 2003 calls Louie CK and says, "Hey, why don't you come to one of my shows?" And then while she's sitting there talking to him, he's, grunting and snorting, and you can hear heavy breathing. And also, he's talking about his sexual fantasies, right? He's sitting there saying, "Man, you know what really gets me is, all that cheddar cheese." I don't know. Whatever his sexual fantasies are. So immediately, right, I'm listening to a conversation. I'm talking to, gross old Katy Perry, right? So Katy Perry is sitting there saying, "You know what I really like? I really like when the penis is doing this or doing that." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I am grossed out by this. This is horrible. Why is this happening to me? I'm a victim. I don't know what to do here. Why is this happening?" Hang up. Hang up. Why would you stick around? Why would you listen to the entire thing unless you're curious, or unless you got some creepy sort of perversion that you want to, or maybe you're a part of it. Maybe you're a part of it. He says that he read women wrong. Did he, read them wrong, or were they very much putting out the cues and flirting with him, and then eventually he's like, "Oh, I see you flirt with me, so you're interested. How dare you?" Right? So the Katy Perry didn't even get that. So 2003. You're not forced to listen to it. You could turn the TV off. You could click on a different website. And if you get if you call Louie CK and he immediately starts jerking off on the phone with you, hang up. That's quick, easy, and painless. And you want to say, "Oh, I don't want to be rude." You don't want to be rude to somebody who's being rude to you. You think he's being right. He's jerking off and you don't want him to do it. So be rude right back to him. So it's weird. Yeah, I guess. There's a woman that wanted me to choke her. That's weird too. I mean, I'm a love maker. I don't want to see somebody that, I love in harm and physical danger. That, that could be a turn on for some people and a turn off for other people. It's a turn off for me. So Abby Schnatner, she called Louie CK, right? She stayed on the phone, probably because she's a pervy creep too, but then later on talked about other people and then was like, "I'm such a victim. Oh my God. The oppression and the PTSD, the trauma of what?" Knowing that men like sex and they get off. I mean, God, I was walking through my neighborhood the other day and, I saw 2 dogs getting it on. So am I traumatized by that? Can I, say that I don't want to see that, a bunch of animals having sex in front of me. I don't want to see that. Why are you putting that in front of my face? I'm just going for a nice neighborly stroll. So, and again, like I said, she could have just hung up. So just, to the world. Anytime Louie CK, if you call, and that's another thing, she called Louie CK to get him to do something she wanted. Didn't pay him, didn't offer him anything, just said, "Hey, you're a superstar, come watch me perform and then give me some feedback." So she wanted, free feedback, him to, be her mentor. And then actually, in a way, if he's jerking off to her, she could have got, Louie CK to be her mentor. And they could have been very happy with each other, right? But instead it was like, "Ew, I'm a woman and I don't like sex or masturbation, and he's a man and he's a pig and he's gross. So, let's just ruin his life. It's not a crime. Don't stay on the phone. Hang up." So I feel like that's so easy. He's telling her his sexual fantasies, right? Saying all this nasty shit, breathing heavily, talking softly. If it's so gross, minutes, right? Let me just sit here for 2 minutes and then we'll just see what it feels like. For how long was Louie CK being a weird perv and she was listening? Let's just sit here for 2 minutes. Okay, I'm not going to do that, but that was, 3 seconds? And if you felt that was uncomfortable, shit, imagine if you actually were in somebody was doing, that was silence. But imagine if somebody was actually saying, "Okay, I'm going to talk about all this, And then she quit comedy forever and ever after that. Dave Chappelle's right, that's some brittle-ass dreams. What? So Louie CK found your voice so attractive that he masturbated to it, and then you were like, "I just don't know what to do anymore." And that was it. So to sit there and say, there's no comedy in masturbation? It's having sex with somebody that I love. And there's actually a, Catholics, there's actually a don't rape, masturbate, okay? So I'll get back to that in a second. So another comedian, Rachel Corrie, said that while she was appearing with Louie CK on a television pilot in 2005, he asked if he could masturbate in front of her. She declined. So get this, okay? She's working as a performer and a producer, right? So she's a performer, an actress, and a producer on a television pilot, which they don't say what the pilot is, so clearly a shitty show. They're trying to do a shitty show. She's a producer of this shitty show. She's a performer on this shitty show. Louie CK comes in as a guest star. He's a nobody, and then he approaches her while she's walking to the set. So this is outside of work, right, on the sidewalk, and it says, he leans close into my face and said, "Can I ask you something?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "If we could go to my dressing room, so, we could, or I could masturbate in front of you." This is her saying it, right? But this is her saying what he said. So he leans in, apparently, says, "Can I ask you something? Can we go to the dressing room so I can masturbate to you?" Right? Stunned and angry. Oh, Rebecca Corrie, how dare you? How dare you say that, Louie? Don't you have a daughter and a pregnant wife? You have a daughter and a pregnant wife at home. And that's his business. So she yells at him, embarrasses him, points out his own personal life. If you have a daughter and a pregnant wife, you're not allowed to be interested in anybody. Like, how dare you? You must always be loyal. What if there's no love? Eventually he, breaks up with her, right? So eventually that marriage falls to pieces. And clearly if he's looking for, she's not, anyways, it's his business. So she insults him. Then she tells the world, "Well, listen, I don't see the crime, though." I mean, he gets embarrassed, and it's weird. One American is allowed to ask another American a question. Of course they are. His face got red, and then he said that he had issues. So this is a lot different than that other one. The other one, in 98, he asked over and over again. This one, he asked one time, accepted the no, and then went on with his life. She, however, did not. And Katy Perry, she didn't ask for, permission. She didn't get consent. She didn't even think to ask. What Katy Perry was doing, they said, "Here, give me a kiss on the cheek." So he's being polite, right, to womankind. "I will respect you. I'll kiss you on one cheek, and then, here, kiss me on the other cheek." And then as he's going to kiss her on the other cheek, she, dives right in, steals a kiss. Steals a kiss. Louie CK didn't do that. He didn't do that. He asked, "Would you want to do some, sexual stuff over here?" They said no, and then it was over. So again, 2005, Rachel Corrie, I think nothing of the story. The Miss Snatter, 2003, I think nothing of it. I do think men can proposition women. I think that, we need to have some sort of ground rules, right? I mean, nobody wants to be propositioned all day long, and then if one person is just doing it over and over again, then they're just trying to wear you down. No, you asked it once, and then that was it, right? So maybe 3 times, that might be the max, but after 3, that's a harassment. So if you reverse the role. So Katy Perry, right? I call Katy Perry up. "Hey, Katy Perry, come to my show. Katy Perry, I'm going to do a show. I want you to watch. I want you to give me some feedback because you're this big superstar," right? So that would be huge, right? To get Katy Perry and my audience listening to me. And then she starts coaching me personally. My God, the great Katy Perry, right? So I call Katy Perry up. And then as I'm talking to her, she's just into my voice. And she just starts playing with herself. And, just starts playing with herself. And then I don't hang up. I listen to it for about 2 minutes. And I don't want to be rude to her, right? So, if Katy Perry says, "Hey, you want to go to my trailer so I can masturbate to you," and does she get fired? Does she get fired for asking that question? She didn't get fired for stealing a kiss. And, kisses are sexual. So, or they very much can be. They can be non-sexual, a kiss on the cheek, but even the kisses on the cheek can be sexual, too. And personally, I think women have greater libidos than men. They just pretend that they don't, right? "Oh, I don't even like sex." Really? You're not even human, and I guess your farts smell like roses, too. So that's, essentially how I see the situation going down. Woman asked, he says yes or no, and then that was it. That was it. So I don't give a shit about this. I think it was he asked a question, she said no, he respected her. Miss Schnatner, she called him, asking him to do a favor, and he's, enjoying her voice. So I don't know. People are weird. So I've been with, women that wanted me to do stuff that I really wasn't into, but if it made her happy, So, but if you don't want to be in a relationship, no means no. That's why the Katy Perry thing, no means no. No means no. So President Shithole, right? We got a president that does catch and kill. He's got a bunch of money. He could control the narrative, right? You could commit the crime, pay the victim off, and then that victim must keep their lips sealed forever. Is that better? Is that better? Right? So if anything, it almost, you know, you did the crime, but you paid them off, and now the victim, if they speak up about it, will be, you know, they're the ones that will get in trouble. So 2002, the comedy duo in Chicago, from Chicago. This is actually in Colorado, here in this state, in Aspen, Colorado, which would be where Hunter Thompson, where he ran for sheriff. So Dana, again, Goodman, Julia Wolove. Again, I mean, is this consensual? Yes, it's consensual the entire time. They go up to his hotel room for a nightcap. And he didn't block the door. He didn't force him to stay and watch. When they come into the hotel, which, first of all, you don't think there's, you know, something there. Why would he say, come to my hotel, right? So you're going to sit there and just be shocked, utterly shocked, right? And then when he's in the hotel room and they're sitting there, he's sitting there and he's like, you know, I'm going to masturbate. I'm going to masturbate to you all. I am so excited. I got women in my hotel room. I'm going to masturbate. So they're sitting in a chair. He's sitting in a chair. He takes off his clothes. He's got, what, 4 or 5 pieces of articles of clothing on. He takes off one piece. He takes off another piece, right? He's got to take off his shoes. He's taking off his socks. He takes off his pants. You're seeing, you know, Louie CK in his tidy whitey skivvies. Are you still staying there? You're still watching. You're still, you know, wanting to see where this is going? If you don't want it, make it very clear that you don't want it. No, I don't want this. And then get the fuck out of there. You're in his hotel room. So, you know, and there's, you know, 2 witnesses. So I guess, you know, he didn't hit her. He didn't use physical violence. He didn't Katy Perry them. He didn't Katy Perry them. He says, I'm going to do this. So Katy Perry didn't give them the benefit of the doubt, say this is going to happen. They just did it, right? It just sprung it on them. So that would be different if they were like in their hotel room and then he was like, hey, you all. And then when he's in their hotel room, just start, you know, jerking off. But he didn't force them to stay and watch. So it just seems weird to me that the very thing that he said he was going to do, they're shocked that he did it. He told them what they were going to do. They didn't have to stay, but they watched the entire time. They're laughing and screaming and just like, you know, kind of making a fun thing out of it. They're still wrapped in their winter jackets and their hats, right? And so he says, can I take out my dick? And then he proceeded to take off his clothes. He got naked, started masturbating. Then he jerks off on his stomach, right? So that's the jerking off on the stomach thing. I mean, people can get naked pretty fast, but he seems to be, you know, pretty old and fat, so it seems like it would take a long time for him to be able to take off all of his clothes. It's several articles of clothing. They had plenty of time to get the hell out of Dodge if they truly wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. There's 2 of them. They didn't like it. Then leave. Then leave. Hang up. You don't like what they're saying. Hang up. Walk away. Right? Tell them no. And if he keeps doing it, then that's harassment. Then that's when the crime is. So 2000 and let's see, that was the Aspen, Colorado, U.S. Comedy Arts. Yeah, so that's pretty much all that is. So those 3 incidents, the 2002 incident, the 2005 incident, the 2003, 2002, none of those. The 2002, he jerked off and he jizzed, landed on his stomach with 2 groupies who were following him and sniffing his ass and went up to his hotel room and then, you know, act shocked because he did what he said he was going to do. They had plenty of time to leave. 2003, he responded to somebody giving him a phone call. He didn't ask Abby Schnatner to call him. He didn't ask her to do that. She called him and wanted him to do something. So it's okay to control Louie's behavior when it comes to getting his ass up, putting on clothes, putting on shoes, walking outside, going to the subway, going to wherever, going to the thing, sitting there, listening, taking notes, and then giving feedback. He was supposed to spend hours on Abby Schnatner's comedy career, and what? He just wanted to, I guess, you know, for Louie CK, just next record the voice, right? You can have the voice for later. Like, it just seems like he is so hard up. It's like, hello? Wait a second. This is a female? Oh my God, I don't know how to handle myself. And I Love You, Daddy was a great movie. It was very smart and very nuanced. It was nuanced. So this, You know, let's pay attention. Let's actually talk about these things, because just saying you did that and then we're just supposed to, like how Mika Brzezinski went ahead and pointed out that he's a little weird guy, but is it his Jewish weirdness, right? The Michael Wolff. So she accused him, and then he said he didn't do it, and then she's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm done. So that's it. That's it. That's the Me Too movement. I accuse you of a crime, and then you're fucked. Well, I know that, you know, things have happened to me, and I accuse those people of things happening, and nobody give a shit. Not even today. And so, you know, essentially what it tells me is I got to make sure this shit don't happen for myself. And I've resolved that if something does happen, I'm fighting. I don't want this shit to happen, and you're not going to do it to me. And if, you know, maybe it might be my very last thing I ever do, but I don't want it to happen. And so, you know, as a man, I guess it's just on me. Nobody's going to listen to me. Nobody's going to give a shit. You know, no, I don't have police protection like all the rest of you all do, or whoever they're protecting. So, you know, it'd be nice. It would be nice to live in a society that respected each other, that said keep your damn hands off of each other, believed in due process, and, you know. So anyways, you know, all three of those incidents, right? 2003, he responds to a phone call with some lewd comments. She could have hung up, but she chose to stick with the conversation. The two groupies in the Aspen, Colorado hotel room, they could have left too, but they stuck around and watched him until he finished. So what's that, 5-10 minutes maybe? I mean, they sat there for 5 minutes and watched him because they were entertained. They were like, well, what is this? And maybe even, like, you know, a little titillated. But they weren't freaked out, and they weren't, you know, terrorized to where they said, we need to get the hell out of here. The 2005, he asked a producer, a superior, to jerk off to her, right, to come to my dressing room so I can masturbate to you. And he said that he read her wrong, and he said he's been reading them wrong. But did he? I don't know. And he asked. Gave her plenty of time to answer. She said no, and he accepted it. Katy Perry never asked the question, can I kiss you? And she wouldn't have accepted no for an answer, because the guy said right up, unless I'm in a relationship, I don't want to kiss somebody. I'm not going to kiss somebody unless I'm in a relationship. So Katy Perry kisses him, takes his lips virginity away from, you know, the Blaze guy, and then kicks him off the show. So talk about, you know, brittle dreams. Imagine, you know, somebody just taking something away from you and then firing you right after that. So that's like the opposite of sexual harassment. It's like, you better have sex with me. Okay, fine. There, I did. Well, you're fired. Wait a second. But I thought what? That's not the opposite, but it's like, it's worse. So, you know, I think the Louie CK has also brought a lot of important cultural moments to us. So the other thing, the only one that I thought that, you know, was iffy was the anonymous woman during the Chris Rock show. It said she worked in production. So if that means she's just like putting up the sets and stuff like that, he's a writer and a producer. He's a producer. I think there is a power dynamic there. And so I feel like I want to, you know, I want to adjudicate this. I want to sort of actually look at the entire situation. What's the circumstances? He asked her several times. So that's harassment. So, you know, the 1998 incident is the only thing that might, you know, been a crime. And for that crime, I bet you if there, you know, criminal charges or if he was sued, he would pay restitution. I think, you know, he went back and apologized to these other ladies, and I don't even think he should have. Apologize for what? She called you up and wanted to steal 3 hours away from your life and be her mentor, and she got pissed off because what? You liked her voice, and you were sitting there saying about the sex out loud, so she could have hung up at any moment. So, you know, and meanwhile, President catch and kill the story, right? If you got money, you could just control the narrative, right? So he gets away with it. If you become president, right, you can get away with every bit of it. But if you're a comedian, then someone just says, you did this, and that's it, right? I mean, I know there are accusations or whatever, but, and he said that they're true, but now, are they, you know, I walked out and got the mail. So that was an incident, right? Actually, I didn't get the mail. I need to go get the mail. That incident never took place. So, where do we go now? Let's talk about a couple cultural moments. So he's got a rape joke, okay? Louie CK has a rape joke. Tosh.0 had a rape joke where somebody was saying, I'm offended, and then he said, Tosh.0 goes, wouldn't it be hilarious if 5 guys just came out and then raped her right now? And, you know, maybe that's funny to you. Maybe it's not funny to you. Louie CK was defending the idea of comedians point and laugh at the most, you know, Abraham Lincoln being assassinated. That's comedy. 9/11, you know, 9/11, 2000 and fun. That's a Family Guy joke. So a rape joke, he's got a joke where he says you never ever rape unless you want to have sex with them and there's nothing else you could do. Then what else can you do, right? So he's tiptoeing, and the reason why it's a brilliant joke, it's not mocking rape or rape victims. It's raping, it's mocking rape itself. Do we want to rape mocking or mock raping? I don't know, but the rape itself. So the reason why the joke works is because rape is wrong and it's bullshit, and the joke works is because that's the logic a rapist would, you know, think. And so it's a brilliant joke. It's a brilliant joke that he tap dances all around. So, Louie CK, after that entire thing with the Tosh.0, he goes on the Jon Stewart show, and he's basically, you know, not being apologetic, but then also kind of, he's being understanding. When he was on the Jon Stewart show, at the very end, he's like, okay, let's not make fun of the, you know, rape anymore. Let's make fun of the Jews. And then it also makes me think of the famous Gilbert Gottfried aristocrats joke, who made the joke after 9/11, and, you know, nobody wanted to laugh about anything, but ultimately the aristocrats joke is just this, you know, this aristocrat, it doesn't make any sense, but basically a family comes in to do an audition, and they do all this disgusting sexual shit to each other, and then at the very end they say, what's it called? And they go, the aristocrats. So it's like a non-joke joke. You have to endure all this horrible sexual shit, and then at the end it's like, and then they called themselves the aristocrats. But the reason why that was important for Gilbert Gottfried to make that joke after 9/11 was this is comedy. Comedy makes fun of shit that you know might not be prepared to laugh about, and we do need to take shit serious, and we need to make sure the victims, so if, like, you know, the crime just happened and you're like, ha ha, right, ha ha, you got raped, that's not funny. But if it was, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer, if Jeffrey Dahmer got raped, he's a rapist, there's justice to that. Yeah, ha ha, you got raped. So, you know, it's important because I think we just don't talk about these issues, and so it's easy just to, you know, not talk about anything that's even remotely close to being controversial. But how are we going to figure this shit out if we don't actually start talking about it? So, after all that happened with the rape jokes and, you know, everything else, Tosh.0, Louie CK sitting there, what he said in some show was that he's reading all these articles, and he says that every single woman has those kinds of stories, those kind of weird, pervy, creepy sex stories, you know, just being touched and groped at. And so because every single woman, you know, he said he didn't know that before, and now that he said this and had all these experiences and read the articles, now that that's a part of him. Now he understands that, you know, this is a sort of a universal thing that a lot of women have to go through, and, like, you know, so this is a couple years ago. So 13 years ago was the last so-called incident, which was a bullshit incident. 98 was the only one that I think was possibly something. And so that's 20 years ago. 20 years ago, right, he, you know, asked a woman an inappropriate thing, and she did it. And she did it. I mean, I guess she could have said no, but I feel like she was a superior to... Anyways, I'm not, you know, that my point is that I went with Louie CK's journey to this whole thing. Should we be able to laugh about this and that? Yeah, I think so. Don't be a psycho. Don't laugh at victims. Don't laugh at people getting hurt that don't deserve to get hurt. Don't laugh at innocent people getting hurt. There's Steve Harvey has a joke about kicking the kids back into the pool. The kids try to get out of the pool and he kicks them back in. That's not funny. He's kicking innocent kids back into the pool, but he's doing like the leg thing. He's like, get back in the pool. And it's supposed to be a big, huge joke, but it feels real to me. It feels like he doesn't really like kids, and so it's against innocence. And so anyways, you know, that cultural moment, I mean, it was inside Louie now, and it got, you know, inside of me, and it got inside of anybody else. That is bullshit that women have to go through that. Now, on a real note, well, Zach Galifianakis, he said he talked to Louie CK, and he was like, F you, CK. It's a funny joke. So, on a real note, when it comes to masturbation, I grew up Catholic. I was a good little Catholic boy. I was an altar boy. And basically, if it feels good, don't do it. That's the Catholic way. So, you're not allowed to do anything, right? Not only are you not allowed to be gay, you can't be homosexual, you can't masturbate, you can't, you're dependent on womankind, but only after you're married. Only after you're married can you have any kind of sexual gratification, says those half pedophile, half homosexual priests. So, we're taking all these sexual lessons from these weird, creepy priests, and they're telling us not to be gay when they're gay, and then they're, bunch of, half of them, right, are pedophiles. But on masturbation, so no premarital sex, no masturbation, no gay sex, just nothing. If it feels good, stop doing it. Well, that goes against human nature, okay? Nocturnal emissions are going to happen, and then what? I mean, is God going to be pissed off about you for what, having a sex dream? So I, growing up as a Catholic boy, I remember just being brokenhearted over and over again by women. And, very much it felt like I was dependent upon them to sort of make me happy. And then I just read something about like, don't be dependent on them. Masturbation takes the power away from them and gives it to yourself, and you're not dependent on them. So I think masturbation stops rape. Don't rape, masturbate. So I think that, in terms of masturbation, what's the difference between masturbation and getting a kiss on the lips? If Katy Perry is sitting there masturbating to me, maybe I get something out of that, maybe I don't. But if she touches me, well, now she's touching my body. She's touching this temple. She's touching this, perfect, God's most wondrous creation. So before it was just over there, now she's touching me. So there's a comparison. You could compare and contrast this because one's physical touching and the other one isn't. And the other one's consent and the other one isn't. Can I come in here and do, oh, no, okay, I respect that. Oh, you want to come to my hotel room? Well, I'm going to masturbate in front of you if you do that. You still don't mind? Okay, fine, that's consent. She didn't consent. She didn't ask. She didn't have any respect for that boy whatsoever. So, of the 3 of the 4 incidents, they're nothing burgers. He did nothing criminal. The 3 of the 4 incidents, they're nothing. They're nothing. He committed no crimes. It's not criminal. He's not a rapist. He's not a Harvey Weinstein, who I heard is, into rape. And if that's not true, tell me, correct the record. But Harvey Weinstein is a rapist. Kevin Spacey was forcing himself on underage boys. Roy Moore with the 13-year-old girl out in the woods. So he's not an Alabama Republican, Roy Moore. He's not a Kevin Spacey. He's not a Harvey Weinstein. And he's not a Jared Fogle. He's not, he's not a rapist. He's not a statutory rapist. He's not a child molester. He's none of these things. He's none of these things. If anything, he might just be, a weird, a chronic masturbator, which he actually has a bit about that, where you have a Christian woman saying, you know what, you can never masturbate. And he goes, you know what, I'm going to go home and I'm going to masturbate to you. How do you like that? And, how does she like that? Does she feel offended by that too? So, for 3 of the 4 incidents, they're nothing burgers. Again, he's not a Jared Fogle. He's not a Harvey Weinstein. He's not a Roy Moore. He's not a Kevin Spacey. And he's not a Donald Trump. So, where do we go from here? Okay, I do have some criticisms that I want to actually give to Louie CK. So it's not, I like him, but there are some things I don't like him. He is like weird and creepy and gross. Get some exercise, you fat fuck. And when he goes out on the stage, he's always like touching the back wall. And it's just, why do you need to touch something? It's like he's talking, he just wants to, need his binky or something. It just, I don't know. It's not a good look, right? Stand tall, Louie. Stand tall. The other thing, I don't like the oppression of children. The Steve Harvey joke, right? I didn't like that. I didn't like when Bernie Mac, one of the best Bernie Mac episodes was where the children went on strike and then he was a strike breaker, because that's very much the oppressor versus the oppressed. But Bernie Mac would make jokes about, I'm going to kill them kids. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, America. No, I don't like those jokes. I mean, do you make those jokes about your enemies? Oh, I'm going to kill, that person. That could be terroristic threatening. Oh, you know what I meant. What do you know? You meant you want to do harm to them, right? Like you're so frustrated you want harm to happen to them. So, if you want your children to be good and make them strong, if they're strong, they would be good. So it just, it seemed the TV stuff, Louie CK's bossing them around. They're all like, okay, daddy, sure enough, daddy, whatever you say, pappy. That's weird. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So there's, I don't like that. It's, let's see. The whole thing's pitiful, right? Can anybody get rid of that image of fat Louie CK jerking his freckled dick in front of others and then creaming on top of his fucking stomach? Seinfeld had an episode where he broke up with a woman for how weird she looked when she opened a jar of pickles. She was crouched over and opened a jar of pickles, and she shook in a way that just, he didn't like it, right? How do you get that scene out of your mind? So, what else do I want him to do? I want him to do a couple things, actually. I forgive him. I forgive him. I want him to stop saying faggot and the N-word. Nigger, right? So, the F-word for gay people, the N-word for black people. He's white trash, and it's weird. So, stop insulting your kids. Stop using them as punchlines. Oppression kills their souls. Maximize their freedom. And stop saying the F and N words.